Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. We are glad you're here. One of the things that I really love about this church is its history. The church was built in the early 1900s as a Universalist church. We are also the home to the historic Innis paintings. We hope you can come and visit when we reopen. For now, enjoy our service.
Hi, I'm Dave Cutler. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. Let me just tell you a little bit about the church. We are all about deeds and not creeds. We spend a lot of our time in the community doing good things and doing good things for people who need it. Thanks, and I really welcome seeing you here.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs, located in the heart of the walkable Tarpon Springs Historic District and known as the home of the Innis paintings. We are a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. I'm Reverend Kristina Spaude, minister here of UUCTS. I'm glad you are here. I hope that you find meaning in today's service. Please consider joining us on a Sunday morning when we gather to worship as a community every week beginning at 10:30 a.m. on Zoom, or drop in for a more personal visit to one of our coffee hours starting at 11:30 on Sundays on Zoom. Please refer to our website for information about how to connect with us on Zoom. Our service associate will now begin today's service. Let us enter this sacred time with open minds and open hearts.
Hello, I hope you're well and enjoying the wonderful spring weather with its new growth and sunny days. I welcome you to this virtual service. We open the service with the words from the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists all over the world. The light of the sun does not lift the shadows that have fallen on humanity the world over. We relight our chalice flame to reignite a spirit of radical optimism, knowing it takes all of us living what matters to dispel those who would divide us. All manner of things will be well if we make them well. May our religious communities embody the right relationships our world so desperately needs. Thank you to Reverend Kristina for her thoughts about community and courage that she'll share with us throughout this service, and to Bonnie Whitehurst for her thoughts, for her wonderful music, and all who have contributed to connecting the parts for this service. We begin with the words from Laura Thompson to light our chalice. Across the distance, the light from within me shines, sending love to all across the distance. Your light is fuel that warms me and helps to keep my own light burning. Together, we keep the flame of community burning bright.
We are called by that power to bring peace to the earth and to care for all our neighbors, sharing love's greatest word. So our story today is the Passover story, and this is a version that's written for children. This is from pjlibrary.org. The first Passover happened long ago in the country of Egypt. A mean and powerful king called Pharaoh ruled Egypt. Worried that the Jewish people would one day fight against him, Pharaoh decided that these people must become his slaves. As slaves, the Jewish people, called Israelites at the time, worked very hard. Every day from morning until night, they hammered, dug, and carried heavy bricks. They built palaces and cities and worked without rest. The Jewish people hated being slaves. They cried and asked God for help. God heard their cries and chose Moses to lead them. Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "God is not happy with the way you treat the Israelites. He wants you to let our people, the Jewish people, leave Egypt and go into the desert where they will be free." But Pharaoh stamped his foot and said, "No, I will never let the Jewish people go." Moses warned, "If you do not listen to God, many terrible things called plagues will come upon the land." But Pharaoh would not listen, and so the plagues arrived. First, the water turned to blood. Next, frogs and later wild animals ran around in and out of people's homes. Balls of hail fell from the sky, and locusts, icky bugs, ate all of the Egyptians' food. Each time a new plague began, and there were 10 of them, Pharaoh would cry, "Moses, I'll let the Jewish people go. Just stop this horrible plague." Yet no sooner would God take away the plague than Pharaoh would shout, "No, I've changed my mind. The Jews must stay." So God sent more plagues. Finally, as the 10th plague arrived, Pharaoh ordered the Jews to leave Egypt. Fearful that Pharaoh might again change his mind, the Jewish people packed quickly. They had no time to prepare food and no time to allow their dough to rise into puffy bread. They had only enough time to make a flat, cracker-like bread called matzah. They hastily tied the matzah to their backs and ran from their homes. The people had not traveled far before Pharaoh commanded his army to chase them after all and bring them back to Egypt. The Jews dashed forward, but stopped when they reached a large sea. The sea was too big to swim to pass. Finally, frightened that Pharaoh's men would soon reach them, the people prayed to God, and a miracle occurred. The sea opened up. 2 walls of water stood in front of them, and a dry, sandy path stretched between the walls. The Jews ran across. Just as they reached the other side, the walls of water fell and the path disappeared. The sea now separated the Jews from the land of Egypt. They were free. Each year at Passover, Jews eat special foods, sing songs, tell stories, and participate in a Seder, a special meal designed to help them remember this miraculous journey from slavery to freedom. I stand for love, I stand for peace, I stand for joy and for release, for what is beautiful and true. I stand for hope, I stand for you. You know our world is in great pain. She needs our loving care again. But there are those who fail to see what we have done and what we need. For there's a cost for every act, and now there is no turning back. We burn a bridge, we bang a drum. It's time to rise, the time has come. If you're thinking it's not urgent, then we've got more time to kill. If I'm not the one who'll change things, then for heaven's sakes, who will? So I will move and I will climb that mountain one step at a time. I won't be swayed, I will not stop until we've made it to the top, where we will stand for love and peace. We'll stand for joy and for release, for what is beautiful and true. We'll stand for hope, we'll stand for you, for what is beautiful and true. I stand for hope, I stand for you. Our reading today comes from David White. This piece is called Sweet Darkness. When your eyes have tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There, you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your home tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. with each sense of mine.
It's time for the offering for the work and the welfare of this church. Please go to our website, uutarpon.org, and click on the donate button. Or please send your checks to 57 Reed Street. The entire address is right there on your screen. And thank you.
Many people, I am not what most people would refer to as a risk taker. I am thoughtful, intentional, and careful. I think I've always been this way, and I've had to train myself to be more courageous. Still calculating in some ways, but also more willing to be vulnerable and experiment. And the more of both I do, the more willing I am to do both more. This isn't unlike congregations. Like other groups of people, congregations tend to be more conservative than an individual may be, and tend to move more slowly than an individual might, as there's this whole spectrum of people involved who may have lots of ideas and opinions. It just takes longer most of the time to get people on board and moving in the same direction, especially if this isn't something already in their culture and ways of being together. In the service I led 2 weeks ago, Courage to Connect, I talked about some different things, including the Reverend Dr. Gregory Ellison's approach to living and leading change in the world by the way he interacts within the 3 feet around him and whatever or whoever enters that space. I also talked about Priya Parker's The Art of Gathering and her intentional approach to meaningful gatherings, whatever the purpose. And I told the story of the 6 blind men trying to understand all of what an elephant is, but each only getting to know one part. And I read a poem by Richard Blanco about both the simplicity and complexity of our daily interactions and all the things that disconnect us from each other. And here we are in this moment, hopefully more than halfway through this pandemic suddenly, when we have been forcibly disconnected from each other out of a desire simply to live. Passover began again last night, or if you're watching this on Saturday, begins tonight. Not only have we just had our first anniversaries of sheltering in place, closing down the church, and other related social shifts, we are having the seconds of events. Second Passover of quarantine, second Easter of quarantine approaching, and so on. For anyone who is able to get to church and be an active part of this congregation in person, I know that this online gathering wouldn't be your first choice. I also know that for many people, this online way of gathering allows or has allowed for all of us to remain connected, even during this pandemic, that they would not have otherwise been able to, including a few of our own folks. When we are closer to the other side of this pandemic, I hope that we remember that we have been more accessible for some than we have ever been. People may not be able to join us in person because they are in hospice care or rehab, because they have multiple chemical sensitivity or are prone to migraines or neurodivergence and processing everything is just too hard some days, or any other host of reasons. Maybe if someone thinks they're getting sick, they decide to stay home and watch the service from there instead of bringing it to the service with them. May we remember that our community often stretches beyond these walls in real ways. Connections with people whose names we know and who we have loved. How do we overcome our fears to help us wonder what the future might hold beyond the pandemic, beyond the limitations we place on ourselves, beyond who we are now? How do we find the courage to stretch to become more who we want to be? Earlier this year, we spent some time reflecting on our mission and covenant, and both have been helpful for grounding us to the work we are called to do now. Some congregations have taken the virtual worship service really far and have become professional. Some congregations have been on the verge of closing during this pandemic, sending their congregants to other congregations for church during this time. Thankfully, we are sort of in between those two ends, where we're doing well enough to keep going and growing, but could also use a little more help. It took courage to get to this place, a commitment to continuing to make this congregation a community as best could be imagined. I think about Passover, and we often remember the plagues and the wandering in the desert for 40 years, and I get that. But on the other side of these trials is the revelation of what it is to be a people committed to each other, to follow a word that you are skeptical of in the hopes that you and your loved ones might be freed, to trust so deeply in your community that you will do for yourselves as you have done for others. You're afraid. The unknown is scary, and there are no promises of what's on the other side other than the hope that you have now. The prayer is that you will be freed from what has bound you, to be released into some other experience that, frankly, you were not actually prepared for, but which makes just enough space that you might somehow find your way forward. That being afraid but taking a risk anyway, that's courage, and we have it. Similarly, we are coming into that place having been confined by what church had become and less what it could be. And then further confined by this pandemic we've been forced into isolating from for more than a year now. And if you are having all sorts of weird feelings and thoughts and dreams like I have been having, it's the anniversary of all of this, reminding you of what we have survived so far. Regardless of what you consciously know, your mind and body and heart all know what happened when and is telling its story the only way it knows how. But so now, this congregation has been skilled at navigating the challenges it has been faced with, skills hard earned by the sinkholes experience, most especially, I think. And now we are creeping up to still more new possibilities. Having regrounded ourselves in our mission and covenant, having taken stock of who we are and where we are, and the gaps we know about who and where we want to be and go, we are beginning to ask the question, what else? What now? What is our vision? What are our hopes for the future? As we embark on a new wilderness, different from the ones that you and we have known before, and perhaps more welcome, it still leaves questions for us about what is the promised land we are seeking to build. We have not let this be a time of desolation. We have found ways to connect and reconnect, as well as, hopefully, to rest some and take stock of life as it was. We are using this time to plant seeds, to tend to sprouts already growing, and care for the whole garden as best we can. And things are shifting, changing already. It may feel a little slow, but it's important that the foundation is solid, something I doubt that I need to explain to you. Like the Israelites, the changes due to the pandemic happened rather quickly and unexpectedly. We were sort of thrown into a new world, unlike what we've known before. Unlike the Israelites, our wandering has happened mostly inside our own homes. We have learned to build community when we cannot be together. As social creatures wired to ourselves to be together, that is a remarkable feat. We have been committed to doing our own work during this time, work on how we do things, moving into more shared leadership models, and it's working so far. We are committed to building for our future, for all people who may find their way to us, including the littlest of us. We are working to expand adult spiritual growth opportunities and continue to improve worship services. Much energy is being spent improving behind the scenes functions around financial record keeping and membership tracking. We are taking calculated risks together. I've found I am much more receptive to risk-taking when I have some idea of where I am going and can start putting pieces in place together. And I think congregations move in a similar way. We are working right now in our 3 feet, using some level of intentionality to make things happen. It can be difficult to move any community. Not everyone will agree on everything, but we have to hope and trust that whatever is deemed by the group as a whole as the way forward will be a good match for what we want, and that we are acting ourselves into a future we want to share. And if it doesn't work, we can always start again. Like the 6 blind men in my last service, each of whom experienced through touch one part of the elephant they were so eager to know, and yet alone were unable to. Together, they would create a much better, fuller experience of what an elephant is. And so it is for us too, that as we come together, we might know better what direction to move in and how to make our dreams a reality. As a community, it can be difficult to assess and name what priorities we have for our 3 feet today and in the days to come. This is the crux of what it is to be in community, and even to be in a congregation, at least a Unitarian Universalist one, that the answers are not prescribed, that we find our way forward only in and through our relationships together. We have to learn to live with tensions among us and lean in to discern the best outcome for the community as a whole. This is the hardest work any community can do, living with friction, with tension, and still finding together a way forward. Not necessarily moving with great speed, but orienting ourselves to the same direction. Speed serves no purpose if we aren't all moving together, other than to pull us apart. It's working through the frictions, the tensions, challenges, and finding or making some resolution that allows us to move forward and to have a stronger sense of commitment to each other, as well as to the work we do. As a Unitarian Universalist and just as a human being, I find that the work we do happens best in relationship. Change is hard. Courage is hard. So much is hard, but knowing that we aren't alone and that we will hold each other when things go sideways, as they sometimes do, can make it easier to give things a try that we would otherwise be afraid of exploring. This kind of courage requires a lot of creativity to make it into something more than just ideas and dreams. I've noticed before how engaging in conversations with people who show up can transform one idea into something vaguely similar but different and more suitable to the whole. Allowing space for the conversations and showing up to them, as well as engaging in creative wondering, helps us discern what forward looks like and hopefully helps give us the courage to begin movement in that direction. So reaching back, reminding us a little to Priya Parker's practices of intentionally developing spaces and gatherings for whatever is needed. Conversations, rituals, being with. And mix it with our exploring models and practices of shared leadership and of practicing community building and relationship creating. And further then, we draw in Reverend Dr. Ellison's 3 feet practice. And we get the makings for strengthening a community of courage, one that practices deepening roots together spreading wings together and building trust, making all else possible. When we use these tools to frame what we do, we are given what we need as meaning-seeking, meaning-making, storytelling creatures to exercise our courage and live into our hopes and dreams together.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every grade and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep within, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Our closing words today come from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there is a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move forward upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this path, this road, this journey, visioning to hope, courageously together with me.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
I hope that you found meaning in today's service. Again, I invite you to consider joining us sometime on Sunday morning when we gather for worship as a community. The service starts at 10:30 a.m. on Zoom. You are also welcome to drop into our Zoom room coffee hour any Sunday at 11:30 for friendly conversation. Please refer to our website for more information on how to connect with us on Zoom. If you use the Connect Online button, it will take you directly to any of our activities. We look forward to meeting you.